Back on the Patrick Netherton Show right here in 1130 The Tiger, and we are very pleased to welcome in one of the most recognizable names in barbecue in the entire country, if not the entire world, and one of the guy who cuts one of the most imposing figures in the world of barbecue. He's Big Moe Cason, joining us to chat a little bit about the world of barbecue. Mo, how are you, man?
Man, I'm fine. How you guys doing today?
We are doing fantastic. It is absolutely wonderful to have you on with us. As a guy that is, Shreveport is about 12 miles from the Texas border. I am a Texas barbecue fanatic. And so anytime I get the chance to talk to somebody that's got the stature that you do in the world of barbecue, it is a blessing. And so we're exceptionally pleased to have you on.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome, man. Look, Mo, let's start with how you got started, because Iowa is not what you think of when you think of barbecue. You know, you think of Texas, you think of Kansas City, you think of even the Carolinas, Alabama maybe. But tell me how you got into barbecue in Iowa.
For me, being that I'm from Des Moines, I grew up, my grandmother had 17 children. She was an awesome cook. Originally, she's from the South, but she laid her roots down in central Missouri. And but then she moved from there out to Des Moines. And 17 kids, great cook, excellent cook. So my mother worked two jobs. I was coming up. She was seamstress at she worked her fingers to the bone. And so my grandmother watched us a lot as my mom worked her two jobs. So I just was totally intrigued at how my grandmother she cooked everything from scratch, cooked every day. And, obviously, having 17 children, she was just an awesome cook. And so the passion of cooking and the interest of cooking kind of started with my grandmother, having her watch my sister and I. And so it was just, we have a huge family. Like I just did our family reunion here in Des Moines, and we go over to Kansas City, we go down to Glasgow, we go out east, we go down by Colorado, and I had almost 300 family members. We have huge family reunions, we have huge family gatherings, and coming up, my aunts and uncles and stuff, we would always grill and barbecue. So I was always kind of around it, my aunts and uncles, and we had a little grill in our backyard, like a 55-gallon drum cut in half, and and I was cooking pork steaks, hamburgers, hot dogs, and stuff, and wasn't doing any of the big stuff like the briskets and like that yet. But, I just love fire. I love managing a pit and learning and trying to get better. And so I've always had a big fun and fascination and appreciation for cooking over coals and fire. So when I got out of the Navy in 93, one of the first things I bought was a little offset Brinkman I got from Walmart, and had it on my back deck and just start cooking again. And then for me, I started seeing these television shows, with all these barbecue shows, which was fascinating to me because up to that time, it's just us in our backyard cooking and, hollering at each other and seeing who had the best barbecue on the block. But I started seeing these shows, seeing Tuffy and the guys, the Myers, Triggs, the guys on TV, and I just thought that was so cool, man. I said, man, this is something that I really love to do. So I ended up buying my first rig in 2006. And, I said, again, I was a Navy dude, water treatment, boiler tech. I did boilers, got on the water treatment plant here in Des Moines, did 24 years there. But, I'm just a working dude, man. I ain't got no big pockets, stuff like that. I got kids and household. And so I had a little house that we lived in, a little 600-square-foot house that I bought when I got out of the Navy. And, I didn't want to go to the bank and get any money. And so we bought another house up on the corner, and then I took this house and gutted it down to bare studs and financed everything out of my pocket, man. It took me about a year, man, but I got homeboys that electricians, plumbers, tile guys, carpet guys, and roofing guys. And I gutted this house down to bare studs. I bought the house for $26,000, gutted the house, after we lived in it for a number of years, and then we kind of built it out. I built it out over the year. Went to Habitat Humanity, got cabinets, got ceiling fans. I ended up putting $11,000 total in this house.
Yeah.
Labor and materials, and I flipped it in a week for $89,900.
Nice.
And so I bought my first real barbecue rig then, and ever then I did my first contest in 2006. Just got hooked, pulled into this area, 100 teams, and a trig, all those guys were there, and I just thought it was so cool. Because I never seen nothing like that before. And I knew this is where I needed to be. And I love competing. I love getting out there and cooking and mixing it up. And to me, it's just it's like a way of life for me. I just love the community of barbecue, the family, the people. I'm just a humble dude that just love dealing with great people out there, man. It's just been great. I've been all over this great country, man, cooking, and the barbecue family is nothing like it, man.
No, it definitely is. So you take that, you get, you win a bunch of contests, things are going great. How does that then transition into, all right, now we're going to put you on television? We've seen you on BBQ Pitmasters. We've seen you on any number of barbecue shows. How did that transition come about where you went from, okay, folks in Iowa know who I am, to now everyone knows who I am?
Well, I was just a competition guy like everybody else. I just got lucky. I mean, that's just what it is. I mean, there's guys out there that won way more I've ever won, but I just happened to. Actually, I was at a cook-off in Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and we were coming back from a cook's meeting, and Johnny Trigg and I were walking kind of side by side as we're walking back to our spaces. And this is when season 1 just came out the previous fall. It was that's the one when they traveled all over the cook-offs and stuff. Johnny Trigg, Myron, and Harry Sue, all those guys, and he's going to put in for season 2. And after that point, I didn't know about that. I said, season 2 what? Season 2 Pitmasters. And I said, man, I'm not connected like that, And he's like, man, you really need to put in for it, Mo. You got a good personality. This is coming from Johnny Trigg. So I said, all right. So I went home, went online, found out what I had to do. He had to submit like a 5-minute video on why you need to be on BBQ Pitmasters. And I put in for it. I sent it in, and then like about a week and a half later, I got a phone call or email asking that they can call and talk to me. And we talked a little bit more, and they said, hey, we'd like to put you in as a contestant. And I did. Went out, drove my rig all the way out to California, and did one of my episodes, which was really cool and humbling for me, man. Because up to that point, I've just, cooked for my family and friends and do competitions and stuff. So when I won that episode, it was emotional for me, man. Because I'm repping my family, I'm repping my wife, my kids, my mom, my grandmother, rest in peace. It was all those things, man. I sat on the back of that trailer, man, and I cried. No one seen me, but I was in the back of my trailer crying, man. It was that movie for me. And I went back, and a week later, and did the finale, got knocked off in the finale. And ever since then, man, I just started getting emails and, about opportunities, and it's been great. And I've been holding this. I was doing that along with holding a 40-hour-week job doing water treatment.
Yeah.
And it's been great. I feel like I'm a blessed man. I'm living my best life. I'm doing enough barbecue now as far as, opportunities that I was able to walk away from my 24 year, I worked at the water plant, but, I've got some great opportunities came and gave me the courage to step away and be my own man, which I've always wanted. And I've always been that, self-taught, never took anybody's classes, just cooked a lot in my backyard. And like I said, again, I do the best I can every time, man. I just do the best I can. And a lot of times it doesn't work out, but I love the passion of cooking and the competitive environment. And that's just what I did.
Big Moe Cason joining us from Des Moines, Iowa, and now known worldwide for BBQ Pitmasters, and now on BBQ Brawl, Flay versus Simon, that's out right now. I know y'all filmed that a little while earlier. I'm curious because we see in some of these where guys that are sometimes judges in certain shows are competitors in other shows. In some shows, you're a competitor, and a different guy, and a guy may judge you. And like in BBQ Brawl, Tuffy Stone, who's typically has been a judge a lot in BBQ Pitmasters, is a contestant on that. Is it tough because you know these guys and you know who they are? Is it tough to judge them that way when you have to be impartial as you can, but you know who these guys are?
Yeah, for me, this is one thing. If anybody who knows me personally, I've got a lot of friends. Like Tuffy's like a brother to me. But I don't let that obscure my task and my job. So no matter what credentials you have, what you've done in the past, that don't mean, to be honest, it doesn't mean anything to me. It's what you put in front of me, and you're going to be judged on that. You know what I mean? I judge fairly. I don't sit there and have any sway or where I feel like, well, this is my buddy, and I've never been that way, ever. So what you put in front of me, I'm going to give you my honest opinion, what I think about it. Now, it may work out and it may not work out for you, but that's what it is. So when I see my buddies, you know, and you know, obviously there's a little bit inside of me, you know, being torn if they get eliminated, you know, but they understand the game too. They understand, you know, just because, you know, you're X, Y, and Z, you still have to execute, and you got to do the best you can. You know, that's why I love my barbecue, because anybody can win. It really can. You know, I mean, I said I'm a glorified backyard guy, you know, and so I look at it as it's always 0-0. Whenever I went out and did competitions, I never looked at someone and said, okay, so-and-so's here, I don't have a chance. I never thought that way. You know what I mean? I always thought it's 0-0, and I'm going to do the best I can. And you know what? There's a lot of times that works out for you. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
You just got to you got to focus on who you are. I don't spend time waiting on what the next person is doing. I got to worry about myself. So as it comes to TV shows, and if I'm judging, I've been on the other end where I've been contestants, and toughies judge me. And like we said, we're all friends. We all know each other. We all respect each other. But it all gets down to having to execute what you're given, and then you got to let the chips fall. You got to let the chips fall where they fall.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
And the other thing is, I'm a certified judge, so when I go around, the amazing thing to me is you may see some of the same competitors, but because of all the variables involved in cooking barbecue, especially when you're doing the long meats like brisket, there's so many variables involved. One week you might have the best brisket you've ever cooked, and the next week you might have garbage. There's so much variety involved in how you cook that it's hard to be consistently great.
And so the thing is that also people understand that it's like your food is subjected to strangers. You may know some of the judges, you may not. So I always cook honestly. I understand there's a little game you got to play a little bit on trying to win the judge's palate.
Sure.
But you still have to be true to yourself. If you're sitting there trying to chase what complete stranger judging your food is, you don't know them. You don't know what they like. So you got to walk your own line. So I'm going to give you what I give you. Now you're going to judge it for what it is. Now, and that makes me a little different than a lot. 'Cause a lot of guys get on the same bandwagon. They're using the same X, Y, and Z because that's what's hitting. And I just never liked that. You know, I made my own rubs. You know, my own sauces, all my little creations I made in my kitchen. You know, and I'm saying, well, let me try a little bit of garlic powder, or let me try some jalapenos. You know, that is the passion in me of trying to make something, create something that's good. But a lot of times, like I said again, it's not what everybody else does. For a perfect example, I did a cook-off in Tennessee. There was used to be a thing called a Sam's Club, and so I did. I made the first round. I was going to the regional, and I cooked my brisket a little different. I cooked my brisket a little bit like Texas. I love Texas-type barbecue, even though I'm from Iowa. Well, so what I do is I take my brisket. I'm cooking high-end Wagyu brisket or good for prime, and I'll put it over a low fire to get a little char, a little light char on it.
Yeah.
And then I transfer it over to my smoker. I like that brisket. To me, that's my favorite brisket. It's got a little char. It's got that traditional smoke you put on it. But then if you go to a place that all they're doing is putting briskets in pans and throwing them in a gravy cooker or something like that and just cooking out from the beginning to the end, it's going to have a completely different flavor.
Yeah.
Than taking that piece of meat and putting it over coals. And so we all got done turning brisket in, and we're all standing around. These are some top-notch cooks I'm standing with, and we're swapping brisket, and all their briskets tasted the same. And mine was totally different. And I said to myself right then and there, this is either going to be really bad for me or it's going to be good. And it ended up being really bad for me because my brisket, them judges were not accustomed to tasting brisket that was, you know, flame kissed for a little bit, because my brisket takes on a slight steak flavor on the back end.
Yeah.
But it still has a traditional smoke flavor. That is what I mean by sometimes you got to play a little bit of the game, you know, because if you really, you know, if you want to win, if you want to play a game, if you know what that is, then go ahead. But I'm of a cut to where I want to give you what I want to give you. Now, granted, hanging out and cooking with a lot of great people over the years, you kind of pick up some things, just like they pick up some things for me. But you still got to walk your line. You still got to be who you are.
Absolutely. Talking to Moe Cason. Mo, tell me about okay, so here's what I really want to know. You know, we watch all these cooking shows, BBQ Pitmasters. I'm watching you now on the BBQ Brawl with Flay versus Simon. And And so we see every single time the cooks are running around, they're trying to plate their dishes. It's 5 seconds on the clock. We're not sure if they're going to get everything plated. How much of what goes on is for television, and how much of it is actually, okay, they really are coming down the stretch trying to plate their food?
No, that barbecue brawl, it's for real, for real. I mean, it's down. When they're counting down, there ain't no stop, reset, none of that. That's what it is. If it says on that clock there's 10 minutes left, there's 10 minutes left. And they got cameras ready to go. So that's the thing about it is, that's what's great about that show is that it's kind of a mixture of BBQ Pitmaster / Chop, because you have this beautiful pantry full of ingredients and you have an X amount of time to cook something. And you have to formulate in your head and get something going. I did Chopped as a one time as a contestant, and I'm telling you, it was the toughest contest challenge I ever did as far as television wise.
Yeah.
It's almost unrealistic. You know what I mean? And that's the point of the show, is to get you jammed up and to see what you can execute in a short amount of time. It's not like cooking a brisket where you can sit back in 12 hours and take your time and plot and do whatever you got to do. If they're telling you these are these prime cuts you got to cook, and you got 30 minutes, and you see brisket there, or you see beef ribs, and you got 45 minutes or 2 hours, an hour and a half, you got to see, that's when guys are taking beef ribs and cutting the meat off or thinning it down or trying to get it done. And that's great for TV because it's showcasing your ability to adapt and overcome.
It's interesting to me because one of the things, I'm not a barbecue cook. I don't have the patience for it. I can't tend to a fire for that long, especially for a brisket. But I have been to, more than my fair share of great restaurants. I have good friends that cook. So I feel like I have a pretty good palate for things. And so it's funny when I'm watching this and you see like Tuffy wanted to try to do a brisket in 5 hours, and everyone's like, that's ridiculous. How, there's no way you can accomplish that. And I think another contestant wanted to do ribs in an hour. And so it's interesting to me that even though I am not a cook per se, I'm definitely not a pitmaster, I understand what it takes to do it. And so when I watch this, I go, okay, this is kind of a crazy idea for him to even attempt this. I'm curious, when you see that and you see, a friend like Tuffy go, I'm going to do a brisket in 5 hours, do you just go, oh man, this just can't go well?
Well, no, I don't. I don't go at it like that. It is challenging. When you see, Tough, grabbing a brisket, knocking it to it. If anybody can knock that brisket out in 5 hours, I know Tuffy can.
Yeah.
Because he's done it. It's your ability to be able to cook a lot of different ways. Now, but you also have to nail everything. You have to nail the texture. And he did nail he did get the texture right, but then it's, you got to make sure you get the flavors right. You got to make sure you do a lot of different things. I can understand doing it to try to wow the judges because you're taking a difficult cut and then trying to knock it out in 5 hours. That is, hats off. But it makes it even tighter, that window of you having to execute that and make it perfect, because you're dealing with other pitmasters there that are cooking easier cuts, but they're maybe nailing flavor or they're maybe nailing texture, whatever. But it's the whole thing. It's the visual. It's the texture. It's the taste. Those are things that all play into how you're going to get scored on that entry. So, it was a little shocking in 5 hours, but you know what? He's Tuffy Stone. If anybody can do it, he can do it.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I did have a text in on the text line asking, what's your go-to when you're cooking for your friends and family?
For me,
yeah,
it all depends, man. I love beef short ribs. To me, that's the favorite on a whole cow.
Yeah.
It's because I love brisket, but man, there's something about when you cook a beef short rib on the bone, the texture is just absolutely phenomenal. There's so much collagen and marbling in a beef rib, a good quality beef rib. It's just love. That's all I can say, man. So if I'm cooking with some friends, I'll get and they come either 3 or 4 bone racks, and I'll season up the beef rib, and I put it on the pit. There's nothing more. And when it comes to cooking meat, it's when you put a big short rib on a plate with that bone still attached, and you got this meat that's 2 to 3 inches tall, depending on how big a beef rib you're cooking.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just nothing but you could just see the juices coming out of it. And as soon as you take a bite out of it, man, it just melts in your mouth. That's a wow factor.
Yeah.
I mean, you can cook some great fish. I love fish. I love seafood. Cook great steak and everything. But, man, you can sit down an awesome beef rib to somebody and have them get in it, and it's dead on perfect texture and flavor notes are just spot on. Man, the eyes roll up the back of the head, man. Man, it's a home run.
That's hard to beat. That and a well rendered piece of fatty brisket are about 1 and 1A for me.
Point, yeah. Oh yeah, I love that too. That sugar cookie on that brisket, yeah, that's good, man. It kind of sticks to your teeth, man. Oh yeah, that's that good one.
Mo, I've eaten 2 lunches already today, but I'm hungry again because of you. I appreciate that. Oh, man, look, this has been a delight, Mo. I really appreciate you coming on and giving us some time. Is this week the conclusion or the second to last episode of BBQ Brawl?
Second to last.
Second to last. Yeah, you got 2 competitors left.
It'll be tomorrow night and then next Thursday.
Beautiful. On Food Network. Go check it out, BBQ Brawl, Flay versus Simon. You'll get to see Big Moe Cason doing the judging. Man, it was so delightful to have you on. Thank you so much. And look, when you get down to this area, Shreveport, Northwest Louisiana, East Texas, holler at us. I definitely want to go take you somewhere good, my friend.
Right on, brother.
Much appreciated. Moe Cason. Good stuff. One of the best BBQ pitmasters there is.